Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mastering Mental Wellness. Um, please say hello to Sir Isaac, my
Hello.
wonderful co host,
Hello,
who is
everybody.
the real professional here and knows what the hell he's talking about. While I'm just doing the armchair shrink thing. Hi, Joyful Journey. Um, so, y'all picked by outstanding numbers, the topic of grief and loss for this week.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Um, I mean,
Hi,
by
Joyful
like
Journey.
a lot. I think it had like 52% of the vote, and the highest one after that was 30% or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it was a lot of people wanting to talk about grief and loss. And now that I think about it, and Isaac and I were just talking about it backstage, I think a lot of that has to do with the emotions we went through this past week
Mm-hmm.
when President Biden stepped down from being the
Mm-hmm.
candidate and said, I'm not running again. I've changed my mind,
Mm-hmm.
and Kamala's going to handle it.
Yeah.
And then to see her take off the way she has just been glorious. And
Mm-hmm.
I firmly believe that she's going to have numbers that's going to blow Obama's numbers out of the water. I mean, and that was phenomenal what the numbers he had. And I really believe she's going to do way better. It's just,
Yes.
um, I've not felt energy this strong for a candidate since Obama's first run. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm very hopeful. So, but in a way, so this kind of rolls right into what our topic is: grief and loss, because that's
Mm-hmm.
how a lot of people were feeling a week ago today when suddenly everything that they were banking on changed that fast.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, including a lot of us readers, were
Mm-hmm.
feeling grief and we were feeling loss and we were feeling like,
Mm-hmm.
how could we have been so off base? But
Mm-hmm.
once we started going back and revisiting what we had actually said, it was like actually we weren't off base. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
saw Kamala taking over for Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had saw that. We just all
Mm-hmm.
assumed it would be after the next election,
Mm-hmm.
not before. Now he's not stepping down as president, but um, just from the campaign. And I think everyone was feeling grief because it felt like everyone was turning their back on Joe Biden. You had all these people demanding that he step down and this, that, and
Mm-hmm.
the other, all because of one bad debate.
Mm-hmm.
It's since come to light that he had been sick. He had gotten
Mm-hmm.
COVID again. I think it was just a combination of all of it together that he just decided, you know what? I'm just not up for this. I'm done. I mean, he was done when he left the White House with Barack Obama. He was not, everybody thought he was going to run for president. And he was like, no, let Hillary do it. I'm done. He was ready to retire, enjoy his grandkids, enjoy his wife, you know, live at home and hang out with his dogs, whatever. And instead, his grandkids talked him into running in 20, for 2020. Literally, he said, literally, his granddaughters came to him and said, Poppy, you have to run. You're the only
Mm-hmm.
one that can save us. You got to do this. And that's why he ran in 2020 and he won. But I can understand being to the point in your life where you're like, I've had enough. I'm tired. And I want to enjoy my family before my time on this earth is done.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads, I think, right into grief and loss and how we
Mm-hmm.
all felt and
Mm-hmm.
going forward from there.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to turn it over to Sir Isaac, who's going to give us the clinical points of view and tear
Okay.
apart what I just said and
Uh-huh.
reconstruct it in a better way. So,
Okay.
You just
Well,
shut it down and let him do his thing.
uh, one thing that you were saying, and as I was thinking, is a part of grief is like you feel confused because usually it's something that you didn't expect, uh, and you have to sort of sort it out in your own mind. And when I think about grief and loss, most of the time when we think about grief and loss, we tend to think about someone who's transitioned and they're no longer with us. But there's so many different types of grief and loss that people don't realize that they're going through the process of. It could be, I've known people who maybe were an athlete in college, or maybe let's just say high school. Well, let's go up to community college, and they got injured. But every athlete have dreams of going on and doing
Yeah,
more. And what you'll notice is they will grieve. They will be in like uh it would be like continuous grief, complicated grief over the
yeah,
subject. And they won't realize that they're grieving it because they think that you only grieve the death of a loved one. And so I think that's what we have to start to look at. Are there things in our lives that we're grieving? Where we have hopes of going to a certain university, and maybe there was a some type of financial situation in the family, and you didn't get to go. These are the sort of things that we have to grieve. And as I think about grief, I think about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and what I think that we have to realize is, do y'all know that she started talking about near death experiences? She was seeing all of these things with people who were dying, and they were given all of these reports. So it was like most of the things that and I think I've said this before, most of the things, the strategies that we have to work with in counseling came from the spiritual community. And
yeah.
if you think about it, she was scientific, but had to go into the spiritual community to get information. I
To
think
get the
that's
answers. Yeah.
to get the answers. That's where we're going. And that she had 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But you don't go through it, I guess.
You don't necessarily go through it in that order.
Yes, you don't go through it in that order. You go
I know I did.
into it, you come out of it, you go back
Yeah.
into it. And there's certain I don't know, I think it's mm, the your thought process of what we tell ourselves, or if we let it think sneak up on us. Like if you're like you were caring for someone, and I think at some point you forget that this person is going to transition. We just think we're caring for someone, and then even when they transition, it's a surprise.
Yeah.
So I think we have to sort all that out, and there are certain things in therapy that you can do to sort these things out. Any
Well,
kind
I
of
like
grief.
some of the points that you sent me, some of the
Hmm.
myths and facts about grief.
Okay.
And I'm just going to read them out to y'all real quick
Hmm.
so you can kind of see where we're coming from with this. Um, Myth: the pain will go away faster if you ignore it.
Hmm.
No, that is not true.
Hmm.
Most people, I think, realize now that you have to talk it out.
Hmm.
You talk it out, whether if it's with a friend, a family member, or a professional
Hmm.
counselor, or psychiatrist, or psychologist, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, Only through talking it out and getting that out of your system are
Hmm.
you able to kind of move forward.
Hmm.
Pretending it doesn't exist and hiding it away
Hmm.
just makes it fester, and it it begins to eat away at your soul.
Yes.
Um, Another myth: it's important to be strong in the face of loss.
Mhm.
I mean, there are, in my opinion, there are two sides to this.
Mhm.
One, you feel the need to be strong because the rest of the family has fallen apart and they're all depending on you
Right.
to kind of hold them up and point them in the right direction.
Mhm.
When you personally want to do nothing more than go crawl into a corner and cover your head and cry.
Mhm.
Um, so it's feeling feeling like you have to be strong.
Mhm.
To me, seems like you're stepping back from everybody else's emotions
Mhm.
and you're shutting off your own emotions and saying,
Mhm.
okay, I'm not going to feel this right now
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
they all need me to keep my act together
Mhm.
and deal with this.
Can I comment about
Yes,
you
sir.
like being strong? Sometimes other people around us will cut off grief. I've seen people that were grieving and maybe they had a friend or a relative who just commandeered the grief, and they were like passing out and couldn't get out of bed. It's like the person who you would have thought would have been more appropriate to be in that situation had to take care of them. So sometimes it's like other people will commandeer the grief.
Yeah. And depending on what cultures, you have some cultures where
Mhm.
going out into the streets and wailing and
Mhm.
flailing and
Mhm.
carrying on in these overly
Mhm.
flamboyant ways is considered normal.
Right.
Where someone from our culture would look at that and say, "Oh my God, what's wrong with them?"
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
guy just died. It doesn't mean you have to beat yourself to death.
Right.
But in their culture, that's what's acceptable. So it's
Mhm.
also a matter of learning culture differences, I think, with
Yes.
with with that
Yes.
aspect of
Yes.
how you handle that immediate relief. I mean,
Mhm.
I remember when my husband died, I literally felt like everything just shut down. I couldn't
Mhm.
process thought.
Mhm.
I couldn't think past the moment I was in right then.
Mhm.
Um, and literally had to depend upon those around me to step up and say, no, we're going to do this. No, we're going to do that. No, we're going to handle it this way. Because
Mhm.
I couldn't
Mhm.
focus. I couldn't do it.
Mhm.
And, uh, and it wasn't because I didn't want to. I mean, down the road, then I felt embarrassment and shame because I did shut down, you
Mhm.
know, when in my mind I should have been the strong one.
Mhm.
And uh, so and every person is different in how they handle
Mhm.
that particular emotion.
Mhm.
Um, I know for me it was anger for feeling relief
Mhm.
because I instantly had such a feeling of relief.
Mhm.
I don't have to take care of him anymore. I don't have to
Mm.
do this anymore.
Mhm.
Because it had gotten his health had gotten so bad. It was 24/7.
Mhm. Yep. Did you freeze, Sherry? I think you froze. Let's wait for Sherry to come back, but I think that's a big thing, but really, to be honest with you, I think it's because the person starts to realize all the responsibilities that they had on them and did not acknowledge it while they were doing the caregiving. That's a big thing for caregivers. They just sort of get um, in a situation where they're just running on I guess just running on how would you say it? Uh, oh, she gave it totally to me. Okay. She'll be coming back, everybody. But I think a person, they just start doing robotic. Um, it's more robotic. This is what I do every day, so they don't put a lot of thought into how they're doing it or what they're doing. And I think what Sherry was talking about is when she okay. Oh, they lost power, everybody. It's booting back up now. Okay. Let me tell her okay. Sherry said they lost power and her system is booting back up. We've been having, she's in Louisiana, I'm in Mississippi, and we've been having a lot of rainstorms. And that's probably, uh, yes. She asked if I was still on, and I told her yes, but I guess I should say I'm lost without you. I guess we always get what we need when, you know, things that look like a mistake may not necessarily be a mistake. Okay. As far as I'll do the next myth. Well, let's see, what is it? If you don't cry, you aren't sorry about the loss, which is, I that's a myth. I believe that when a person, different people handle, I'm trying to text Sherry on to get her back on. Different people handle things in different ways. I've seen people who, if especially if there's someone who's transition, they may they may go into work mode and do everything that they need to do, like funeral arrangements or letting everybody know, and they may not grieve for 2 weeks. It sort of catches up with them later. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but what we have to do is we have to sort of at some point get grounded and sort of get back into life. And it's almost like we're going to have to assess everything. There's one thing that I've noticed though with people who maybe like have complicated grief that's gone on for quite some time. Usually they will have thoughts of their loved one, and they will almost go back into the grief process all over again. And what I'm learning, like from the spiritual community, is that when loved ones come around us, they come close so that we can sense their energy, or they may send us thoughts. And usually when they're sending us thoughts, it's more like it's a pleasant thing, it's a good memory. And what we tend to do is we tend to say, "Oh, that was wonderful the way they were able to uh, organize get-togethers. Oh, I miss them so much." And then we go back around again. But I think our loved ones are wanting us to remember them the way they were when they were at their best. And I think if you've ever been in a situation and you start to think about a loved one who's passed away, it's probably going to be a good memory. If you can hold on to that good memory and play it out, you will notice things start to change for you. Let's see. I'm trying to look at the comments. Yes, yes, Rose Blue. When a parent-child relationship dissolves, that will happen because what we will do, we'll go through all of these things and trying to figure out why did it happen, or how can I change myself so that it can be better. And most of the time, you can't change yourself. What I would say is we have to get grounded and get clear and start asking ourselves, is it something that I've done? If it is something that I've done, maybe I said something and they said that that upset them. I should apologize. You know, that's what I think everybody would like from other people if they thought that they were harmed by them. All you can do is apologize, and you can go on, because if this is my thinking about apologizing, saying I'm sorry. How long do you have to say that you're sorry to someone for them to forgive you? That's going to be on their that's going to be on their time schedule. When we say we're sorry, we can let it go and we can move on if we're truly sorry. How long do you wait? Do you wait 2 weeks, 2 years, 20 years? All you can say is I'm sorry, and then you continue to live your life. What what i what i think is, and I like to do a lot of therapeutic letter writing. It's always, I think it's really important to speak to the person. Some people do it out loud. They do what they call an empty chair technique, where they're talking to the person. But you can also do a letter writing, like if you write it at night and destroy the letter, um, and usually by burning the letter, you get all the thoughts out, everything you needed to say, you get it out, and you start to feel better, because it's almost like you're talking to the person in spirit. And usually there are things that we want to say to people that we didn't want to say, that we never said. Or even if, another example I would give you is, if someone lost a child, like in a car accident, they may bargain and they may say, well, I never should have bought him the car, or I never should, I started to, I, if I had not gone home and allowed them to drive, I decided not to go by the grocery store or whatever. If I had gone by the grocery store, it probably would have been different. We do these things, but sometimes in life, when things like this unexpected happens, we can go on. And 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 I don't think we should judge ourselves if our grief goes longer than what we had hoped it would go. I don't think we should allow other people's interpretation of how we're dealing with things matter that much in our lives, because when it's time for us to work on something, we will stop and we will work on it and we will change it. Let's see. Narcissist. This is Rose Blue. That is true. Yes, we can heal from loss. If an ex, a narcissistic ex, lies to your children about you, if anybody lies to anybody about you, you know what? This is what, this is just my thought, what I would do. If my child came to me and said, my
I'm back.
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. You
Power
did a
went out.
disappearing act, and I was in deep grief and sorrow. I was dancing. They couldn't see my feet moving. I've been dancing.
Uh, oh my goodness.
you know,
Sorry,
you,
y'all. The power went out.
oh,
We've been
I
having
thought,
massive thunderstorms all week long. No,
yeah,
no hitches. And today, of course, I'm doing a live stream and it's going to go and go out. It's like, oh my god, I couldn't
you,
even get. I barely was able to get a text across to you on the
really?
phone. Yeah.
Okay. I, I was
So,
trying to text and talk. I'm not a good tasker. That doesn't work for me.
I'm sure
I
you did
just
fine. Everybody's still here. So,
I just kept paddling. I was talking to Rose Blue. I was giving her an example. Like, if your kids are all you can do is be appropriate with your children. But if they say, Dad said so and so, said, you know, that never happened, but let's do this. If whatever your dad says, please never tell me. I don't want to know. You keep it to yourself, keep it between you and your dad. And I never want to hear it. We can talk about anything except the bad things that your dad says about me. What that does is you get a reprieve. You start to feel better. It in the beginning, it's like, yeah, I need to hear this so that I can counter it. It still never goes anywhere. It just gets worse. You might as well not hear it and let it pass. That's what I would say. But that takes a lot of practice to do that.
Are we talking about someone in a like in a divorce situation, or just
Right. She said that the ex, who's a narcissist, says things about her and turns the kids against her. But
yeah?
all you can do is
Unfortunately, that happens.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. All you can do is, I guess, be remain grounded and share your truth and not listen. It's never a good idea to listen to bad things that other people say about you. You can,
yeah,
if you have somebody who says bad things and they say, "Oh, so and so said something about you," and the best thing to say, was it good or bad? And if they say, "Oh," so I don't want to know. You keep that to yourself. Don't tell me.
yeah,
And
yeah.
pretty soon that person will stop. Either they'll walk away or they'll stop talking to the other person. But you don't need to.
And a lot of that's going to depend on the age of the child too. How old the
Right.
child is. Do they understand? That
Hmm.
mama and daddy split. They're not getting back together, and it's not my fault.
Hmm.
I think that's the hardest thing to teach our kids. It's
Right.
not their fault. So many children will internalize that, thinking that they're at cause for um for their parents splitting up. Um,
Hmm.
and it makes it very difficult if you have one parent
Hmm.
constantly degrading the other one,
Hmm.
and all you can do is rise above it and just not
Yeah.
not go there. You know,
Hmm.
so that when your child goes back to the other parent's house and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, well, what did your dad say about me? Or what did your
Right.
mom say about me?" And they'd be like,
Right.
"They didn't say anything about you. They just said you were a good cook or you were a nice person or
Hmm.
you were, say something positive so that they can then repeat that to the other parent. And after a while, they're going to stop, you know.
Uh-huh. That's it.
Hi, Suzanne. Yes,
Hi,
this is our
Suzanne.
Mastering Mental Wellness.
Yes.
And this episode's topic, chosen by you, by
Hmm.
everybody, is grief and loss.
Hmm.
Isaac was just thrown into grief and loss when my power cut out and I disappeared on him.
I knew
And
something
suddenly he
went
had to do
wrong
it
when
all
you
by
weren't
himself.
moving.
Uh, oh, was I still here?
Yeah, you were there, but you weren't
Because everything
moving.
went black here. I mean, like
I
everything
think
went
you
out. Just
frozen.
yeah, everything went out. Poof! Everything was black. It was dark,
Hmm.
and so I was like, "Oh God, not now." Uh,
Yeah, yeah, but there's so many things that we can do as individuals to live better lives. I mean, like, we're involved in the spiritual community. Just because we know something doesn't mean we're doing it. And I think a lot of times when we learn things, it's almost like we're doing them and we can't figure out why things are not getting better. I think what we need to do is we need to take some action steps, like not listening to bad things that people say about us, setting boundaries, working on ourselves. If you're working on yourself and people are gossiping about you going to therapy or making snide remarks about it, I mean, like, why would you think it's something wrong for somebody to take care of themselves? And a lot of times what we don't realize is it's not you, it may be them. And you have to
Yeah,
acknowledge that. I mean, realistically.
exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. I mean, they're gonna there's always gonna be those that can't be nice no matter what goes on around them.
Mhm.
They have to, in order for them to feel any self-worth, they have to denigrate everyone else. Um,
Mhm.
or they're extreme narcissistic or they're psychotic in some
Right.
shape or
Right.
form, and they just don't have feelings. They don't, if it doesn't affect them personally, then it doesn't exist.
Mhm.
That's just the way they operate. And
Mhm.
there's not a whole lot you can do about it.
Mhm.
At least that's how I've always understood it to be. I
Mhm.
could be
Mhm.
I could be wrong, but that's just the way that I've seen it. I'm scanning up in chat trying to see what I missed.
Mhm. Okay, okay. I see something, uh, Warrior Princess, said her
Okay.
dad never said he loved him,
Yeah.
and, you know, everybody's got their own way of doing things. She said it never bothered her, but it bothered her sister. Uh, this is and I can see that, but this is about acceptance. It's like if someone never said I love you and that's what you wanted more than anything and you're looking for it to come from that person, usually it's coming from somebody else. We're always getting what we need, and we want it to come from certain people. Some people are just not capable of that. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I've dealt with people who maybe had parents who grew up in the depression, and they said our parents never hugged us, never said they loved us. But you got to put everything in context. If you were living in the depression, you didn't have time to talk about I love you and hug people. You were trying to survive. So it's like they don't have that on board. They can't do it. But if you put it in
Yeah.
context, you'll start to realize, oh, this is why they're not doing that. So what do I do next? And some people just, it doesn't bother them. And some people it does.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like for those of us who never had a particular parent, a dad or a
Hmm.
mom, whatever, you
Hmm.
grew up without one.
Hmm.
It's you're feeling grief in the sense that you never got to experience
Hmm.
what that kind of relationship would be like.
Hmm.
But then you look at somebody that you may know who's in a really bad relationship with a parent, which would make you turn around and say, "Oh, thank God I never had a dad. I don't think I could be treated that way."
Hmm.
But who's to
Hmm.
say that the next dad that comes along would act the same way? It's like if you don't
Hmm.
have a frame of reference of what to go on, then it makes it hard for you to know if what someone is doing is right or wrong.
Hmm.
Um, if you had a parent that beat you at every little infraction you made,
Hmm.
then when you grow up and be an adult, there's a real good chance you're going to marry somebody who beats you, whether you deserve
Hmm.
it or not,
Uh-huh.
because we tend to be drawn to those, to what it is that we're comfortable with, or maybe
Mhm,
comfortable is not the right word, but what it is that we're
mhm,
used to. Um,
mhm.
I got to go deal with the AC. Hang on a minute. Keep talking.
Okay, alright. Well, I I'll go back to the spiritual community. It's and I don't know where I read this at, but it said that when we were souls and we were on the other side, we decided that we would come to fit in physical form and we would play a game. We would see how many experiences we could have and still love. And
Right.
somehow that's how I look at life now. You know, when you're younger, you don't look at it like that. But if I find myself in a situation, I just start to ask, okay, what was I supposed to learn from this? If I actually agreed to this with my guides and spirit, what could I have wanted to learn from it? You would be amazed at how you can change your opinion about things or people or situations and continue to move on. It's like, I think in our society, we've been taught that if someone uh, grimaces at me, I'm supposed to feel hurt. You don't really have to. You can say, okay, this person's not having a good day, or you can ask the person, is everything okay? And even if they're mean, that's even information. You can detach from that person.
Mm-hmm.
But and I think we're all off course, but but I think it's all a part. I think all of this sort of goes together. But when we start to realize that if I indeed chose this body and these experiences, I need to start to say to myself, what can I learn from this? And and
Right,
and
because
I don't
grief
want to
and loss
minimize.
doesn't necessarily have to just be something of somebody dying. I mean,
Right, right.
uh, a breakup, a partnership that fails, a business that fails, a marriage that I mean, there's just so many things that would
Hmm.
break apart that
Hmm.
unit, or that would pull one person away from that unit, is
Hmm.
going to cause just as much grief as someone who drops dead, you know. Um, and even for those who are sick and we know that they're going to die soon, we
Hmm.
have to, not everybody is going to react the same
Hmm.
way. So
Hmm.
that once it's finalized and you get that phone call and they're like, they're gone, you know.
Uh-huh.
Um, but what did Mary say?
It's look at this as you need to Elaine says you need to read the fine print at least twice. I do that on contracts.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
you have to return to the contract.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I was brought up, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
Uh-huh.
And then would turn around and hear my grandmother curse like a sailor,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
and and rip
Mhm.
somebody a new one because they did something that pissed her off.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, where was that other sentiment that you said that you were
Yeah.
going to go?
Yeah. That was for
That
you.
we kind of jumped right over that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but there again, it's like Suzanne talking about her dad never said that he loved
Mhm.
them,
Uh-huh.
but the man is what Krista's her mother's 83.
Uh-huh.
Suzanne's dad was much older. You got to also take into account what generation they came from. Somebody
Uh-huh.
that's up in their 80s or 90s, they
Mhm.
grew up in a time and in a generation where men did not, under any circumstances,
Mhm.
express emotion. They
Right.
didn't cry, they didn't laugh,
Mhm.
they didn't love, they didn't, it was, you kept
Mhm.
yourself detached from
Uh-huh.
everything and everyone.
Right.
And so when something tragic would happen in that family, that surviving person can't deal and
Mhm.
certainly can't handle other people's emotions over it,
Mhm.
because they've been told that it's not manly to cry, or
Right.
whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
Um, hey,
Do y'all
Shannon,
remember
um,
Wayne Dyer's story where he lived in an orphanage, and
yeah,
let's see, what did he do? He worked, he did certain things, but he said at some later on, he said, "What if my soul decided to learn self-sufficiency? What if that's what I came in to learn?"
yeah,
And because, he had his father left the family, his mother had to put them in an orphanage. I mean, there are so many things that people negotiate and live through,
oh yeah,
and I think we need to do it to the best of our ability. Yeah, it, and I'm not making light of it. It's going to be painful. It's going to be scary, but how can I do this to the best of my ability and still take care of me? That's what I
exactly,
would think.
yeah, yeah. I know when my husband died, for the first probably 3 to 5 months, I
Mhm.
couldn't function. My
Mhm.
son would be the one to say,
Mhm.
"Mom, the power bill came in. You need to pay it. Go ahead and do it right
Uh,
now, and I'll go
uh-huh.
put it back in the mailbox to go out tomorrow." Because he knew that if he didn't sit right there and tell me to do it and then watch me do it,
Mhm.
that we were very likely going to get the power cut off, because I
Mm.
couldn't cognitively, I just couldn't function to
Mhm.
handle the mundane everyday
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
So for a short while, it kind of flip flopped. He was the parent and
Mhm.
I was the child.
Right.
I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know why I keep yawning, but it's or for instance, when my grandmother died,
Mhm.
I was 18.
Mhm.
It was just before college started.
Mhm.
Classes started like the next day or the day after.
Mhm.
And now my grandmother had cancer, lung cancer, that had spread throughout her entire body. The last 10 months she was alive, she was a guinea pig at the testing hospital in Galveston, because that was
Mhm.
back in the 70s. There was still a lot they did not know about
Mhm.
cancer back then. And a lot of what she was experimented with on standard procedures today for patients with cancer. And
Mhm.
so she was able to, in her own way, contribute to those that get well today.
Mhm.
Yeah, I loved my
Oh,
grandmother because she was my grandmother, but at the same time, I hated that woman with every fiber of my being.
yeah.
She was a raging alcoholic and a
Mhm.
mean one on top of it.
Mhm.
She was miserable as could be
Mhm.
and decided that everybody else needed to be as miserable as she was.
Uh-huh.
And that was her daily goal, was to see how fast she can make everybody else miserable.
Mhm.
And it it just kind of spiraled from there. So it was like when she died, part of me was the relief,
Mhm.
again, that relief of, well, we don't have to take care of her anymore. And the other part was, oh, thank God she's gone. I don't have to deal with this woman. And then there was the other part of me that was like, this is my grandmother and she died. And
Mhm.
I am, she's never coming back. And
Mhm.
so it's not uncommon to have all three of those emotions all at the same time,
Yes.
right after you lose somebody.
Mhm. One thing, do you know that in the 50s, like child rearing, it wasn't as kind as we as it is now. It was like they were like, you didn't really comfort kids. It was like they were like little robots. So I think a lot of that is over time, because what we're seeing in society and what we're learning, we're placing that template over somebody who didn't even learn these things.
Yeah.
And they don't know why they're not doing it. They just that's the way they thought things were. I need to look Google that again, some of the things that they thought were appropriate.
Yeah, that way you can write them a letter and say, "Hey, want to explain this one?"
Yeah.
Um, generational trauma. Yeah, Christy, that's
Uh-huh.
very much so, especially when
Uh-huh.
you're dealing with somebody who loses family members
Mhm.
in a way that's far more horrific than just your relative died, you know.
Right.
Look at the people in Auschwitz, you know, or
Mhm.
people in where Pol Pot did all of his crazy nonsense, and
Uh-huh.
um the American Civil War, you know, um where people were
Right.
you had brother against brother fighting each other,
Uh-huh.
you know, for what they each fervently believed, even though they grew up in the same household.
Mhm.
And one saw it as it's my right to own a slave, and the other saw it as no,
Mhm.
that's not right, you know. So um
Imagine how well society would be if people worked on their issues. What we tend to do is, well, not a lot of people. They will point at other people and they will say, I know what you need to do. I know how you should live your life." And really, these are people who are hurting. I think in the future, I believe it's better to heal than to hate. I think in the future, hate will be a mental disorder. I really believe that because a lot of people who hate, they try to harm. And that's almost like a antisocial disorder. I'm looking at Hershey, the shadow reader. I keep looking at her photograph, her picture, and I keep seeing Donna Summer.
yeah, I know she looks a lot like her, doesn't she? First
Uh-huh,
time I saw
uh-huh.
it, I was like, "What is Donna Summer doing in my chat?" Um, and Hershey does a lot of paranormal work, and she has
Okay,
one of those ghost boxes,
okay,
um, where she can actually converse with spirits and stuff,
okay.
and which is really cool. Uh, and she does a
Mhm,
lot of that stuff, which is really kind of nice.
mhm.
Um, and yeah, Elaine, you're right. Hate takes up way too much energy,
It
and
does.
you know, some people just come out of the womb hateful.
Mhm,
Why that is, I don't know. For some reason, it's gotten into my feed on my YouTube that I like
mhm,
to watch pictures of babies being born. Don't ask me why, but now I get flooded with like the first minute or 2 minutes of a child being, you know, like right after they're out of the womb and they've been, you know, kind of wrapped and they're like clearing them out, slapping their butt and whatnot, making them cry. And it's so funny because now that they keep sending them to me, I started watching the damn things. And it's so
mhm,
funny because some babies come out with that mean, I'm gonna have a tantrum
mhm,
face. And
mhm.
every little thing they're hysterical and crying and screaming and what, and other babies are like coming out and they're literally smiling like, oh, isn't this cool, you know? And they just little happy go lucky things laying there, you know, and you're like, why is that? And I've seen like twins and triplets that, you know, they've shown that you have one or two, say, triplets that are screaming bloody murder, red in the face, and you have a third one that's like la di da di da,
Mhm.
you know, like no big
Right.
deal.
Mhm,
What you upset about, you know? And
mhm.
um, sometimes it's like, you know, why do people? Sometimes I think we can't help the way we are because we come out of the womb that way, you know. We come,
I think you're right. I really think you're right. It's like this is what I would say to people. You got to know how you fit. Start to learn how you fit into the world. How do
Yeah,
people treat you? There are some people in the world who people will give them a lot of responsibility, even when they're small children, but they won't give them a lot of like compliment or validation. There are some people who come into the world and people wait on them hand and foot, and they are unhappy when people don't wait on them hand and foot. The other people are
yeah.
unhappy because people don't meet their needs. If you start to figure out, when I show up in the world, how do people treat me? You can start working from there. If people leave you to your own devices, be okay with that and realize most people don't come to my aid. They leave me to my own devices. I have to be okay with that. Or
Yeah.
if people don't, if you're used to people catering to you and one person doesn't, it shouldn't ruin your day. It's like, okay, this person doesn't see the wonderful person that I am. So I need to go
Right.
ahead and do this for me. But I think you have to figure out how you show up in the world and start. And when you accept it, you can work from there.
Well, look at the we have an entire generation of young adults now who think that everybody owes them something
Hmm.
because growing up they had mom and dad telling them that they were perfect, they were great, they
Hmm.
could do no wrong.
Hmm.
Which, yeah, you want to tell your children that to some
Hmm.
degree because you want to
Hmm.
build up their self-esteem, but
Hmm.
not to the point that it's an out and out lie when they're screwing up big time.
Uh-huh.
And so now you have 18, 20-year olds who think that they're supposed to walk into a job and get the CEO's salary.
Uh-huh.
And if you're not offering them that package, they're not interested. It's like, yeah, no, you got to start at the
Hmm.
bottom, dude.
Hmm.
Work your way up, you know.
Hmm.
I mean, you're getting minimum wage or whatever. Um, or they expect everybody in the room to literally bow down to them when they come into the room because they've been so pumped up that they're wonderful, they're great, they're everything there is to be,
Uh-huh.
that they naturally expect everybody to treat them that way.
Hmm.
Um, Look at the way Donald Trump would enter a room back when he was president, when he would be like with the G8 or whoever, other officials, other leadership, and walk in. He would literally elbow other leaders to other countries aside so he could go be in the front because he was the important one. And I can remember seeing videos of him acting like that, thinking, dude, that's like really insulting to somebody that's supposed to be our ally,
Uh-huh.
and you're treating them like they're the pool boy or something. I mean, I don't know. But, and there are some people that are like that. They are always convinced of their own greatness. You have kids that have grown up where everybody gets a trophy, so no one feels hurt. But then what's the point of the trophy? You give a trophy to somebody who excels and did
I,
better than everyone else. You don't give it to the little shit at the end of the table that didn't do nothing all semester,
I'm reading the
except I know, yeah, I'm scanning it and I'm trying to talk and not laugh. Um,
I had to laugh. I never heard that before.
what, everyone gets a trophy? They started
No.
that crap when my
Mary
son was in it.
Starshine. Mary
Oh, what did she
Starshine.
say? Attention whores. Yeah, that's right. They are. Um, yeah, oh yeah, very much so. I mean, uh, well,
Well,
I'm not gonna go
yeah.
there.
One thing that I would suggest,
I might get
y'all,
in
think
trouble if
about it
I
like this. A lot of us grew up in a time where um, resources were scarce. The young people growing up now, a lot of them, their needs are met. They don't have to worry about it.
yeah,
And
we've become an instant society.
that's what they expect. And I think that's where we're headed. I think with proper boundaries, or we can we can change things like that. Like, yeah, you're okay, I'm okay, whatever. But that they have that expectation because it's like it's anything that they wanted, it was just there.
Well, in the
We
50s
a
and
lot of us
60s,
didn't
you
have
went
that.
from one extreme of parenting to another.
Uh-huh.
You went from parenting where every you got spanked every day, whether if you needed it or not, just because somebody thought you were bad, or just because you thought about doing something bad.
Uh-huh.
That was my grandmother.
Uh-huh.
And then you had the other parents who followed Dr. Spock, not Mr.
Mhm.
Spock of Star Trek. He had more sense. But Dr. Spock, who was all of this about, oh, well, you must let the child decide if they're going
Mhm.
to share their toys or do this or do that.
Uh-huh.
It's like, no, you sit the little pooper down and say, look, y'all got one toy, there's three of you. Take turns or play together. Or I'm going to take the toy and no one's going to have a toy to play with. God
Uh-huh.
forbid you were to say something like that to a child today.
Mhm.
I mean, the way we were disciplined as children, if you did that today, they would put you in jail for child abuse. My
Mhm.
grandmother would make us go get a switch off the fig tree in the backyard, and you
Wow.
better bring back the right kind of switch. Because if it wasn't, and she had to go get one, you got double the licks.
Mhm.
And she would literally hold you by your upper arm and let you run in a circle. And she would switch you from your ankles all the way up to the mid shoulders. You'd have
I
little bitty
understand
welts
that.
up and down your whole backside, up and down the back of your legs, everything.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she would just pivot with you as you tried to run because she had that arm. You weren't going nowhere. And that was my grandmother. My mother never laid a hand on us.
What do they call
She
it?
never physically punished me or my brother. She
What
would
do
do psychological crap and mess with our heads. She would punch a hole in the wall and say, next time it's your head, or she'd dump a glass of milk over your head and say, all right, now you clean it
Wow.
up. Just she would just,
What
and
do
then
they
she'd
call
get in
it?
the car and she'd leave. She'd put herself in timeout. She later told me so she didn't kill us. My brother and I drove my poor mother crazy because we fought like cats and dogs nonstop. And so, yeah, it was
Trigger warning. This is a trigger.
trigger warnings here. Woo wee. Um,
Oh.
so a lot of it depends, I think, on what era
Yeah.
you grew up
Mhm.
in as to what they think is okay to treat
Yeah.
and what um and what uh uh yes. No, it's not too loud. You're fine. Um I lost my train of thought. Oh,
You're talking about you're getting physically.
it's gone. It's gone now. Now all I can think is the potato peeler. Um, my brother came and stuck his head through the curtain and said, "Is the
Uh-huh.
potato peeler
You're
too
talking
loud?"
about how your
I don't even hear
grandmother
it. Oh,
would
yeah.
terrorize
I
you.
mean, she was a holy terror. She really was. Um, and like I said, she disciplined us very well. I
Mhm.
will say.
Mhm.
Um, when I was a little girl, my grandmother had a housemaid that came in 3 times a week. Anime was her name. I thought she was family. I didn't know she was hired help. I just thought she was like an aunt or a cousin or something that was there to help clean. Yeah, what did I know? But I tell you what, do something bad and she saw it, that woman would tear your ass up in a New York second. She didn't hesitate about it. And then she'd tell your mama or my grandmother, who would then turn around and punish me again. So it was like, it's like, you learn not to do anything in front of anime because she would spank you and then you would get spanked by your grandmother
That's
because she
funny.
would then go tattle on you. Um,
I've
but
heard
she
that.
raised 5 kids of her own, so she
Mhm.
has a maid, and that was hard back in the '60s to be a person of color in that kind of job, trying to
Mhm.
raise 5 kids on your own. Um,
Mhm.
so I had a lot of respect for that woman. I really did.
Mhm.
Like I said, I thought she was family. I had no clue that she wasn't. Um, at all. Just beyond me, it's out there I was. Um, because I didn't see her skin color as anything different. Because my
Mhm.
grandfather was Cajun, and they're fairly dark skinned too. Um,
Mhm.
and so I just figured, okay, well, she's part of the family. She's just
Mhm.
darker than the rest, and I didn't think about it. It wasn't a big deal. Um, whereas I know other people would have flipped out if their housekeeper had punished their child
Uh-huh.
for doing something wrong.
Uh-huh.
I'm just saying, and
Uh-huh.
maybe that's a southern thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe up north they didn't have to deal with that, but down here we did.
Mhm.
um, yeah, I mean, you got put out in the morning after breakfast and told not to come home till the street lights came on, and you played everywhere. You rode your bike everywhere. I mean, you could be 5 miles from home as long as you got back for the house. The street lights came on. You were
Mhm.
good to go. And whoever's house you were at lunchtime, that's who fed you. So, and God forbid you were at somebody else's house and you misbehaved, their parent would tear your ass up
Mhm.
and then call your parent and come and get you. And this is what happened. So,
Uh,
um, but that was back at a time when you knew your neighbors. We all knew one another.
yeah.
We all knew who our neighbors were. And so, I mean, in some respects we're worse off now than we were then because most of us don't know who our neighbors are. We wouldn't know them from Adam if they walked up and slapped us in the face.
Mhm.
Just like, but most parents today, if they saw you abusing a child or an animal, it wouldn't take them 2 seconds to whip out that phone, start recording while they're dialing 911
Mhm.
and reporting your butt. So
Yeah.
back then, people got away with a lot of things because nobody knew it was going on.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't talked about. Just
Yeah.
okay. Little Johnny shows up in bruises every day. What
Mhm.
did he get
Right.
into? That kind
Right.
of thing.
Mhm.
So anyway, we kind of got like way off the topic of grief and loss.
yeah. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is somewhere.
She's like, okay, I quit. I'm out of here. Bye, y'all. Um, off on another planet. So,
yeah.
well, we've
Yeah.
been at this an hour, my dear, and I try not to keep you over that. I know you have things to do. I got to go finish my laundry because I got to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And well, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I hate doing laundry. I
Okay.
wish I could afford a housemaid.
I know,
I'd have
right?
somebody come in and do the laundry and clean the toilet. I'd be a happy camper. Just that's all. Just come clean the bathroom, and I'm
I
happy.
know. I
You
know.
don't have to do the rest of the house. I'll do the rest of the house. Just clean the bathroom. It's um, it's just one job I hate doing. Um,
yeah.
so Isaac and I will go through our list of topics. We will post 3 on my community tab next weekend
Mhm.
for y'all to go through, and you pick which topic you want us to talk about next week
Mhm.
or in 2 weeks, I should say. And hopefully we'll actually stick to the topic.
Mhm.
And since we didn't do that today, um, but what we talk about is picked by y'all. We just put up some suggestions, and
Mhm.
we're just about to the end of our list, and so we're gonna start asking y'all for suggestions,
Yes.
and then we'll put it up there, and we let everybody vote. I do a little poll I put up on my community tab. You could go in, you can vote, and a couple of days before the show, usually Friday or Saturday, I go in, I look what it is, I email Isaac, I say, okay, this week's topic is, and within an hour, the man emails me like paragraphs full of information. It's like he's doing all the work, man. I'm just,
Well, I do this all the time. I've done this for a while.
yeah, he's good at it. So what can I say? I lucked out that he decided to come and help me do this. So I would be lost without him.
Oh,
And,
you're the one doing you're doing most of the work with the channel, so I appreciate
oh
that.
well, it's a combined effort.
Yeah, okay.
We each
Okay.
have our strengths.
Okay. I'll buy that.
We each have our strengths. So we'll go from there.
Yes.
All right. Self-care, everyone. Yes, absolutely. And if something happens and you think you need more help than just us chit-chatting about it,
Yeah.
but you know who to contact, send me an email. I will call Isaac and find out what direction to send you in.
Mm-hmm.
And because he has a channel, because is obviously you can see he's in the chat, but he doesn't have a channel. He doesn't do anything with it. So except chat.
Yes. Just chat.
So so that way I can let y'all know, I can let him know that somebody's got a question, and then we can go from there. So y'all have a great Sunday.
Yes.
Enjoy yourself. Don't be bummed out like me that tomorrow's Monday and I got to go to work. I really don't want to go to work, but I got to pay the bills. So
Hey,
work to
gotta
work
pay the
to work.
bill.
That's it. I like to eat. I want to keep a roof over my head.
That's it.
That's it. So y'all have laundry. I've got a load in the wash and a load in the dryer. Don't talk to me about laundry. So I got more to go too. Y'all have a great Sunday, a great week. I will be back on Wednesday for Sisters of the Mystical Tarot. It will be on my channel this coming week. I will be the host.
Okay.
And because none of us are simulcasting anymore.
Okay.
That's how we all started getting demonetized, because we were simulcasting. And evidently YouTube couldn't figure out how to make extra money off of it. So they started punishing everybody for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just simply telling us, don't do that, it's against the rules,
Mm-hmm.
they just started shutting down people's ability to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So, which isn't cool. But anyway, y'all have a great week. I will see you on Wednesday, Sisters of the Mystical Tarot, my channel, 7:30 p.m. Central. And y'all take it easy. Don't let it get to you. Have a good one.
Bye.